Hey everybody, it's Knife here, and I got a question for you today. Do you know what an animal is? You know, one of these little guys. Alright, good, because that's going to be very useful for what we're talking about today. So the games we're talking about today are Pokemon. Now, there are so many of them I can't cover every single one in one video, otherwise it would be way too long, so I am covering the first generation of Pokemon. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, what's a generation?
Hey man, I'm super confused.
I know the games, I know the cards, I know the show, I don't know the generations. So, a generation is a fan-created term, usually consists of Pokemon games that are in the same region. So, for example, there is Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, and Green, which all take place in the Kanto region. That's the first generation. Then there's the second generation, which has Gold, Silver, and Crystal, which all take place in the Johto region. So, yeah, if you ever hear anyone talking about it, saying, oh, I love Generation 5, Generation 8 is my favorite. No one ever said that. Now you know what people are saying. So today we'll be talking about the first generation of Pokemon games, those being Red, Blue, Green, and Yellow. Now, most of you might not know these games exactly if you didn't grow up playing with them, but I can assure you, you know the Pokemon from them. These games hold the original 151, as most of us know. They started off the anime, the trading card series with those beautiful Ken Sugimori watercolors. Yeah, I mean, Pokemon was everywhere. Pokemon was everywhere in the late 90s, so much so that people had actually called the time Pokemania. Now, there was a brief sense of Pokemania happening again when Pokemon Go came out, but it wasn't nearly as long-lasting nor as huge as the original one in the late 90s. I mean, there were commercials. They were on cereal boxes. If I remember correctly, they were on planes. Like, they put decals of, like, fucking Poliwhirl on a plane. That's cool. So, the idea for Pokemon came from Satoshi Tajiri, which Satoshi is also Ash's name in the Japanese dub of the Pokemon anime. When Satoshi Tajiri was a kid way back when, he liked to collect beetles and battle them with his friends. This gave him the idea for a video game where you do the exact same thing with elemental monsters. So starting off with the games, we have Pokemon Green, which showcases Venusaur, that being my favorite starter in Kanto. We then have Pokemon Red and Blue, Red being an international release, Blue seemingly only being in Western markets, and then a few years later, Pokemon Yellow released, which is pretty much the same game as the other three, but it is a little more akin to the anime, in that Pikachu is your starter, it doesn't evolve, and Jesse and James are in the game at some point. I haven't actually played that one far enough to see them. So, getting into the actual gameplay, you're starting off as a young child in the Kanto region, in a town called Pallet. Now, at the ripe old age of 10, your mother and every other adult in the whole world has decided to send you off on your own adventure with a creature that has elemental powers. As you try to, you're stopped by Professor Oak, who then brings you into your lab and gives you your first starter Pokemon. Now, a starter Pokemon is a gift Pokemon in each of the games. It is your first Pokemon, and it usually is fire, water, or grass. This is a great way for the game to nudge you into the type charts. Now, if you've ever played rock, paper, scissors and thought to yourself, God, I'd love for this to be so much more complicated, almost maybe 18 different things? Yes, I got you covered. So the type chart is basically a huge game of rock, paper, scissors, with a type going against another type, either being able to do the flat rate of damage, being super effective and doing 1.5, or being not very effective and doing 0.5 times damage. So, just as an example, so you can kind of wrap your head around this if you don't, we have the 3 starter Pokemon. Charmander! Has super effective fire-type moves against Professor! Who has super effective grass-type moves against Squirtle! Who then has super effective water-type moves against Charmander! It gets a lot bigger as you play the games, but I definitely recommend you just play through instead of trying to memorize all of it, because you will over time. So, this first generation of Pokemon didn't really have much story in it. They were more trying to get the mechanics down. I gotta be honest, it is kind of a welcome change of pace from the newer games, which oftentimes are just holding your hand, which sucks. Oh yeah, I can. Okay, cool. Sorry guys, I just figured out how to check if I'm recording and I don't have to get up because I'm fucking awesome and I'm smart. Sweating my ass off too. So despite there not being a lot of story, you are still given a few objectives. The first one obviously being to catch them all, trying to catch all 151 Pokemon, and wanting to make each Pokemon game stand out from the others in the generation, they added version exclusives, which are Pokemon found in that same generation that can be found in one game and not the other. Another cool difference that they put in the games, which I don't know if it was really intentional or not, but in between red, blue, green, and I believe yellow as well, all the Pokemon have different sprites. I believe this is actually because of localization issues when they were trying to get the games out to the West. I could be completely wrong. But yeah, red has different sprites for the Pokemon as blue or yellow or green does, and I think it can be kind of cool because they kept that up until about Generation 6 when Pokemon went 3D. The other objective is to beat all of the 8 gym leaders, the Elite Four, and then become the champion. These are all like type-themed boss trainers that you have to fight, which can put up a pretty big challenge if you don't know what you're going up against. As you play through your adventure, you level up your Pokemon by getting experience, and at certain levels you will evolve your Pokemon. Now, this evolution isn't the kind that Darwin talked about. This one's a lot more rapid and changing. Now, a cool tidbit about evolution is there are some trade evolutions in the Pokemon games, meaning you have to trade a Pokemon with a friend in order to evolve the Pokemon and get its evolved form. Now, in the first generation, there's actually, I was gonna say there's 2, but there's 3. No, there's 4, right? Okay, so there's 4, being Alakazam, Gengar, Machamp, and Golem. So between Machoke and Graveler, when they get traded over, Graveler gets his arm stolen by Machoke. That's why Machamp has 4 arms and Golem has 2 now. I didn't know this till like a year ago, so I think that's pretty cool. I'll let you guys know. Okay, so in saying this, I can feel the screaming that'll happen and the pitchforks and the fires. So just remember, my opinion doesn't have to be yours. If you don't agree with it, that's okay. I only say that because I've been in the Pokemon community long enough to see people don't play about the first generation of Pokemon. And I like it. I like the original base Gen 1 Pokemon games. I think they're cool. But they suffer from being the first. I think there are better ways to play them. They were remade in the 3rd generation for Fire Red and Leaf Green, and then, okay, it's a debate between Gen 7 and Gen 8. It might not actually be, people might have come up to a consensus on it, but I haven't yet. So like Gen 7, Gen 8, they released the Let's Go games, which are actually closer to Pokemon Go. I'll talk about those in another video, don't worry. But yeah, I feel like they suffer from being the first. There are a lot of glitches. I mean, one of the most famous being Missing No. But even with the moves and some of the stats and stuff, there can be a little wonky in how the gameplay goes. I do like, though, how each town is coordinated to a color, and I think it's pretty cool. My favorite is Lavender Town, because my favorite color is purple. But yeah, something I like about the Pokemon series in general is no matter what the game really, you can play with whatever Pokemon you want. I'm currently playing through Pokemon Red with young Sheldon the Venusaur and Spanky the Raticate. I totally don't just have a team of 2 Pokemon because I was trying to speed through it for some footage. That's not the case. So over the years, the Pokemon games can feel a little stale. So people have come up with ways and challenges to make it fun again, one of the biggest ones being the Nuzlocke. Now this is a challenge, I'll give you the quick rules. Basically, you have to catch the first Pokemon on each route. If a Pokemon faints, it dies, and you have to nickname each Pokemon to get sentimental value to them. There's a bunch of different other kinds of like Nuzlockes that have their own rules and stuff. So funny enough, the name Nuzlocke actually came from a fan-made comic where someone had a C-Dot that had the face of, I believe the character's name was Locke from Lost or MASH? I think it was Lost. Neither of those shows I've seen. And it just, it was a C-Dot, which is a Generation 3 Pokemon, with his face. And people kind of just caught on to the name, and it's been a thing forever now. That's kind of one of the cool things about the Pokemon community. It's a really big, thriving community with a bunch of stuff. Aside from Nuzlocke, there are even fan games. I mean, people have taken time out of their days and lives to rework base Pokemon games to make a new experience for everyone to play. I mean, it's cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it with the first generation of games. There isn't really a whole bunch except talking about like the main gameplay, which there isn't much of. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I'm hoping to be able to, so I'm planning on being able to make a lot more videos, not really dropping one every 2 weeks. Hopefully like once a week would be cool. That'd be fun. Whenever this one comes out, that's when that starts. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Peace.